Yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Wow.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah, good times. It was pretty easy to be the quickest Chevy. I think there's only 3 of us that went out there. So no, it's been good. We decided yesterday not to practice, just to kind of fine tune everything. There was only a few things that we wanted to try. I felt like in the duels, never got the track position, but car had pretty good speed in it. So more than anything, it's me just trying to learn the techniques of this car on the super speedway, because I didn't run any of the races last year on the super speedways. So overall, I feel like it's pretty good, and it's just going to be more about learning during the race tomorrow of 40 cars out there and how the car's reacting. Be a little bit warmer than today, how the tires kind of start to slide around and stuff with that many cars around you. So pretty happy with everything, and we'll be ready to go tomorrow. And really cool to have Nutrient Ag Solutions on the car, moving up to Cup with me. It's been a great partnership in our race team for the last several years now. So for them to come to the Cup side with me means a lot. So really cool to have them here.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and take questions for AJ now. We'll take as many as we can in the time that we have, and to kick us off, we'll start with Reed here up front.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. So based on what you've learned about the car so far, have you developed a strategy for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we've all seen, it's hard to get a third line working around here. So, in the past, I was always one of those guys that would kind of just sit back as early on in the race and just let it develop. And, some of it was at those times, maybe I didn't quite have the speed to consistently run up front. So it was more about trying to time of when to get up front and stay there at the end of the race. With this car, I feel like you got to have more track position early on. So, with 100 laps to go, especially, I really think 60, 70 to go, you need your track position. It's hard to try to get back up there. That's what I fought in the duel. I felt like we were pretty decent, but we just never. It's just hard to make moves. So I think trying to get up front, whatever way we do that, and obviously trying to stay there, especially after halfway, is going to be really critical. The cars in traffic get aero tight. Obviously, we see when you're pushing. If you push the wrong way, it's tough. So it's going to be a challenge tomorrow. But I think just trying to get up front early and hopefully stay there is probably the best thing.
All right, we'll take our next question from Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, 77 Sports Media, KickingTheTires.net. AJ, you've done this before. You're no stranger to this week, but it's been 5 years. Is the emotion different coming back to the 500 now compared to where you were in 2018?
No, I'm always nervous. It's as soon as I get here, I feel the nerves is right as I drive into the tunnel. It's like as you land and drive in the tunnel, the nerves, anxiety builds up a little bit, which is a great thing because it should be like that. This is a special race to be a part of. I don't take it for granted. I hate super speedway racing, but with that said, this is when they would drop the green every year over the last 5 years, there's a piece of me just missing it. So feel very fortunate and lucky to be in this position to have this opportunity again. And the nerves have built up over the week, and I'm sure I'll struggle to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow and just basically hurry up to get to intros. There's a lot that goes on in the morning for all the drivers, but hurry up and get to intros and get inside the car because the nerves will definitely be there. And once you start the engine, then it's go time.
Both times you ran third here, you started deep. You're starting deep again tomorrow. Is that a good omen?
The race is long enough. It doesn't matter where you start. As I said, the track position's more critical, but if you got a fast car, you can still work your way up there. I think it's more, you got to pick and choose when you do it, because if you kind of go for it and you get kind of tossed to the back, it's a lot harder to get back up there now. But if it's meant to be and we make all the right moves, there's so much luck that goes into this too. So you just try to make the right moves, and if a wreck happens and you're a part of it, that is what it is. You just don't want to be the cause of the wreck. So that was always my mindset. So we'll be ready to go. I'm so pumped to be back here. So this is a great race for all of us to be a part of, and we should all be lucky enough that we get to do this.
All right, go ahead, and then we'll go to Lewis.
How you doing? Scott Morgan on South Florida Tribune. First of all, you know, when you approach 3 wide situations, how do you really react to them on the fly, knowing that there's not a whole lot of room for error?
Yeah, I mean, these cars stall out real easy, so I think if you're trying to start the third lane, you have to have a massive run. You can't just pop out and hope a couple guys go with you and make it work like the old car. You know, this car, you have to make a run, have a big head of steam, and generally know that guys are going to go with you. If you get stuck in the middle 3 wide, you know,
Then I'll be ready.
you got to be careful, especially later in the tire run, but it's all part of it.
And you know, you participated in that LA Coliseum race, if
Yeah.
I understand. What was that like, you know, in a regular stadium with that type of atmosphere?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what NASCAR has done for the Clash is really cool. You know, you don't need to have the Clash here and do another super speedway race or anything like that. You need a special event like that. Same thing with the All-Star races. You know, to do it now at North Wilkesboro is what those races need. You know, last year I think we were all a little bit more careful at the Clash because we didn't have any spare parts. I mean, all the teams told us as we showed up, we wreck at the Clash and then you come to Daytona and you wreck a car early on. We don't know what we're going to do to get to Fontana, so I think that's why you saw a little bit more rough housing this year than last year. But you know, the racing wasn't great, but for the atmosphere and what that event is, it's really cool to be a part of. So I mean, it's what that event needs.
And lastly, my final question here is when you go ahead and compare the energy of the crowd here at Daytona versus other tracks, what do you find to be a lot more stimulating knowing the history of this track?
It's the biggest, one of the biggest races we have in the world, Daytona 500. You know, I feel like if you're not a motorsports fan, you can still say certain races and they get what it is. You say the Indy 500, they know what that is. You say the Daytona 500, they know what it is. And you know if you win the race that you become a part of a legendary group that has won the Daytona 500. So you feel that in the crowd too. The crowd, you know, the people here, even the people that have maybe first timers that have never been here that are just learning what racing is, they know what the Daytona 500 is. You feel that energy as soon as you wake up tomorrow morning. This place is packed. It's gonna, you know, sold out, infield, grandstands. Not that drivers need any more reason to be pumped up to race the Daytona 500, but you feel the energy in the crowd, and that just gives it a little bit more.
All right, we'll go to Lewis next.
Louis Frank, Reuters, straight ahead, AJ.
I saw you, man. I was just trying to look away. Got him. He knows everybody laughed because everybody does the same thing in here with you.
Yes.
Yeah, you got that. Yeah.
Oh, he's not here.
Yeah, you are.
Put me off my game for a second.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Simulations are great, but can you learn anything from watching previous finishes here? It seems like the last 2 laps, the end of the day, all that mattered. Have you learned? Did you watch?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of in-car and the race footage from last year, just trying to get an understanding of how the runs formulate and kind of just what you have to do to try to put yourself in the right position. But at the end of the day, it's great to watch all that and you put that in the notebook in the mind, but you have to feel it and you have to be in that position. And as we've seen many a times with this race, there's no one way or another to win it. You know, it's great to be the first car leading off of turn 4, and we've seen people lose it that way. I felt like Austin last year did a great job because they had a big run on him, and he did what he had to do to win the race. But yeah, you put all those notes in your head, but at the end of the day, it's different every time you're a part of it. So you just try to. I've always at least said you make what you think is the best decision in the moment, and after you can always nitpick on whether it's the right decision, but you give yourself the best opportunity to make that decision. If it works out, it works out.
Thanks for being a friend.
Hey man, always.
All right, we're gonna come up front to Jerry, and then we'll wrap with Chris.
Jerry Jordan, kicking the tires.net. So over the past few days, several of us in here have had the opportunity to make single car runs in the racing experience cars and figured out that, you know, what you guys do behind the wheels probably a little more difficult than we gave you credit for in the past, but how do you guys keep the cars settled and without basically bouncing all over each other and putting, I mean, we see big wrecks here all the time, but by and large, we get a lot of racing here.
Well, we're paid not to wreck, so that's the ultimate goal, is to try not to wreck, and it hurts if you do. So I mean, it's a challenge. You make a single car run, it's a lot of people can do that wide open, and it's not hard to do. It's although I will say in this car it was a little bit more difficult. They bounce around a lot more in qualifying. So, but yeah, you get 3 or 4 wide. I mean, that's why we're supposed to be the best of the best.
Is that going into the trust factor we hear you guys talking about with who you're racing around?
We don't trust any of each other. Like, let's be honest. We know who's maybe a little safer and who's a little bit more aggressive, but let's not lie to each other. We don't trust anyone out there.
Alright, Chris, go ahead.
How's it going, AJ? Chris Collin from News Daytona Beach. It's no secret colleague in the Xfinity program has been really dominant at Daytona and Talladega in recent years, including your son, Justin Haley. I was wondering how much have you been able to carry over from the colleague Xfinity results to prepare for the first multi-car Cup Series run in the Daytona 500?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Cup Series is such a challenge. It's difficult. I mean, we're racing. That's the point of it. There's 40 of us out there, and we're the best of the best, and that's why we're in those seats. It's a lot more challenging. A lot of it also goes with ECR and Chevrolet and all of our partners that help us get to that point of why our stuff's so fast on the Xfinity side of it and on the Cup side of it. So, but yeah, it's a lot more difficult. I think, in the Xfinity series, part of it is, and it's complete honesty is, there's not as many good cars in the race, and because of that, you're able to get a lot of cars that want to hook up with you because they know that your car is fast and they just want to go with you. So it's sometimes even easier to make moves, although by the end of the Xfinity, my Xfinity side of it, is the field figured out they didn't want the colleague Chevys linked up together because whether it was Justin and myself and Ross or Ross and Justin or Jeb and so on, and Daniel last year and in Landon, part of the culture is we're all in it together to try to win the race. And at the end of the day, sure, you want to be the guy that wins the race, but it sets the tone with Matt Collick and Chris Rice and on down the line that we're helping each other, and I think we showed that constantly in the Xfinity series. It's a lot more difficult in the Cup Series. There's a lot of 4-car teams. They're all really good, so it'll be a lot more challenging, but myself and Justin work so well together, so if we're up front, we know we're going to help each other. Of course, we want to be the one that wins the Daytona 500, but if Justin wins and I follow him across the line, I'm taking just as much pride in that as if I'm winning. So that's still the culture. That's what we're going to try to do.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, guys.
Alright, AJ, thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon, and best of luck tomorrow in the Daytona 500.